where conversational AI is making huge strides. One company is doing it in a very unique way, and that's why we brought over Zara Jillings, partner account manager for Soul Machines from New Zealand. And that's a tall order because she's also a former guard at the Fordham University and in New Zealand's national women's team. How are you, Zara?
I'm great. I'm very happy to be here today. So super nice to be talking with you.
Thank you. It's a great honor for us also. First of all, how did you make the transition from basketball to conversational AI?
If you asked me a year ago, would I be here? I definitely wouldn't have. I didn't know too much about conversational AI, and I was very focused on basketball and on studying. And so I did do a master's in information technology. So that sort of was the start of what got me into this area. And then I was connected to some people at Soul Machines. I was able to begin working with them. Absolutely fell in love with the company, fell in love with what we're doing. And it's really just snowballed from there. So I've been able to take a lot of different things in my stride. So basketball is very much the pathway that got me here. And now that I'm on this conversational AI and track at Soul Machines, I am just loving it and making most of every minute.
Yeah, I did it too in a way. I'm an NBA analyst in Israel. Can you see similarities between those two, like distant worlds? Any best practices for basketball you were able to implement in Soul Machines?
I mean, at first glance, you're kind of like, there probably isn't anything that's similar. But when you think about it a little more and dive deeper, the stuff that just does make sense is that conversation piece. So in basketball, being able to communicate is so important. And I mean, in any team sport, in any team business. So now sort of taking some of those skills across to the conversational AI and sort of knowing different ways that people talk, different ways that people might listen is really helpful. And then just in general, I'm lucky that my time management skills were pretty good because it was a busy lifestyle as a basketballer and it's still a busy lifestyle now, but it definitely prepared me well.
Okay, let's talk about Soul Machines. Why are you concentrating on the aspect of digital persons?
Yes, so at Soul Machines, we create astonishing digital people. And what's really powerful about this is in an age where so many of our interactions are becoming mediated by technology, or in a COVID world when you can't really go and interact face to face with a lot of people, having a digital person allows you to humanize some of those interactions. So from a brand standpoint, you could have a brand ambassador that can interact with your customers, seamlessly across all channels, whether it be mobile, whether it be online, whether it be in-store via a kiosk. And so the sort of power of having a human interaction and then a digital person. And what's unique about Soul Machines is that you sort of have an emotionally responsive interaction, something that can be really, really engaging, is then that you feel more connected, more human, more in touch with the brand. It's perceived as more modern, more interesting, more effective. So sort of all those things make a digital person a really great way to go about some of the standard things that might be handled simply by chatbot or handled by a live agent, sort of having the best of both worlds while obviously still being then able to pass on to a real human if that's necessary in any instance.
Are people more likely, from your experience, your company's experience, to chat with a human-like chatbot than with a robotic icon?
What do you mean by a robotic icon?
No, like a regular chatbot when you pops a little icon of a robot and, hey, I'm something.
So we've found that people definitely like, again, the more human and interactive experience. So sometimes with a chatbot, you can get a little annoyed if it's asking you the exact same thing all the times. Not to say that a digital person might not mishear you in some instances, or might not understand exactly how to reply. But in most cases, by having an interaction with a digital person, people do feel like it's more natural rather than talking to just a chatbot. And so that has its benefits across the board. Because I know personally, now that I know about digital people, I love going and talking to our Soul Machines digital people. I love seeing what they're doing in the wild. So it's really amazing.
Hey there. I'm feeling okay today. How about you?
I'm doing great today.
How rude of me. I never told you about us. Our origin story here at CoCoHub is really interesting. Wanna hear?
You bet I do.
Talking about success stories, we're all jealous of you in New Zealand with your Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and the way you handled the Corona situation. And you created a digital person called Bella to help them fight COVID. Can you talk about its impact?
Yeah, so Bella was a digital person that we created right back at the start of the pandemic, probably in early April. And that was because it's a time where there was so much misinformation, both across the globe and within New Zealand, and people just sort of not understanding what the different coronavirus measures meant. And so in New Zealand, we had an alert level system that went from 1 to 4. And so what Bella was capable of doing is telling people, this is the alert level we're at, this is what it means. If someone asks, hey, can I get a haircut? Bella would know the answer and be able to share that with you. And again, all of this was done with sort of her personality mixed in. So rather than saying, no, you can, or yes, you can to the haircut question, she'd say something like, oh, that's what everyone's been asking me. I don't have to worry about it because my hair doesn't grow, but you can get a haircut starting next week, or something like that. So it was really fun. And then in addition to sort of focusing on that coronavirus aspect, people could ask questions about symptoms and treatment and where to go for help and what number to call. And we found that that was really useful and really utilized by a lot of people. But then also in a time of coronavirus, there were so many people that were feeling lonely or isolated. There were people who had businesses that were really struggling. So we sort of made Bella more of a holistic Kiwi digital helper and digital friend. And so she also has information and support on like mental health tips and resources. There's the really pioneering Expressing Kindness Challenge, where for 3 days you can come back and talk to Bella and get given a different challenge to go and learn about expressing a little bit more kindness, appreciation, gratitude, and how all of that can help you both physically and mentally. And then for business standpoint, we interviewed a lot of business leaders throughout New Zealand and got their advice and support for, hey, what can I do right now when it feels like my business is just going down the drain? So people had a lot of really great engagement with Bella across the board. And we were definitely proud to put her forward as a place sort of where Soul Machines is here to help. We want to do what we can to make a difference at this time.
Now we just need to create cloning of Jacinda Ardern. There are some people that are actually deterred by the blurring boundaries between regular people and digital people. Moral panic of bots will replace us. What can you tell them?
I think that people are always going to be skeptical about new technologies, and digital people are still very much at the frontier of what's happening. And I think 5 years from now, this will be more commonplace than it is. And 5 years ago, these sort of things barely existed, especially to the level of Soul Machines. We were founded in 2016. So at the moment, when people sort of have those concerns and they might think it's a little bit freaky or a little bit scary, what we've actually found is that talking to a digital person after 1 minute to 2 minutes, those sort of perceptions really fade away. And people find the experience again to be engaging, to be interesting, rather than being as weird as prior to speaking to one you might have thought. And then just on that general level, sort of a bit of the fear about automation or robots, so yeah, coming for our jobs and being able to think for themselves, that is all still, as far as I understand, I've done a lot of research into it, definitely further away. So at the moment we're in this sort of space of more narrow AI, and even within conversational AI, while there is some conversational abilities that can sort of generate what they're going to say, a Soul Machines digital person is sort of what we call like a truth teller. They'll say exactly what that company wants as their messaging, that brand wants as their messaging. So they're not going to come out and talk about something else or try and take over. But I mean, it's valid for people to have those fears, but from my perspective, definitely not something to be too worried about. And I want everyone to have really great experiences with digital people and to realize how powerful they can be.
As somebody who wants to rebound, go on a transition and start a career at conversational AI like you did, what tip can you give this person?
It's a great question, and I do love the basketball analogy.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I know for me that this came out of nowhere, and now that I found it, I'm so glad I found it. So if people are seeing this, then I'm sure they're already a little bit within that conversational AI space, knowing CoCoHub, now hopefully knowing Soul Machines and being interested in that. And there's just such a wealth of information available online and so many different skills that now you can go and learn. So I know that every day while I'm working, I'm still looking at other stuff. I'm still learning other stuff. My learning's gone just through the roof. So that's really exciting for me. And I think the possibility for everyone everywhere is that if you're interested in this space is to really just throw yourself into it, make connections with places like CoCoHub that are doing amazing things, and making it so much easier to be involved in conversational AI. And then come talk to Soul Machines and see what we're doing and see how everything sort of ties together to create those really powerful experiences.
Okay, and last question. If I would tell you that there's one NBA player who is a digital person and nobody knows it, who would you bet on?
Hands down, LeBron James. That man he's not human. He has to be digital. He's just crazy, too unreal, too impressive, too talented. So maybe it would make me feel better if he was a digital person, because yeah, as a real human person, he is pretty phenomenal.
I would go with Kawhi Leonard. You probably heard his laugh. It sounds robotic. It sounds like a glitch.
I don't even know where you're sitting at.
Yeah, he's a bit of a robot. That's a sneaky one. All right, Kawhi Leonard's definitely my number 2.
Yeah, okay. So Zara Jillings, partner account manager on Soul Machines. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome chatting.